If you have logged in from Eastern, it will be late, I guess. So let's try to quickly, as per planned demo. So let's try to understand what we're going to learn about, learn in this Informatica PowerCenter developer course. I'll be probably sharing my screen and yeah, I'll take up your questions at the end of the demo. So let me give you what we are actually offering as part of this course. And then I'll probably go through each and every question that everyone has, right? So coming to the course that we're going to learn about, or a tool that we're going to learn as part of this training, is Informatica PowerCenter. Informatica PowerCenter. It's basically we're going to learn more on the developer training. So it's a Informatica PowerCenter developer training, and the same could be used even for support roles as well. In case if there is any Informatica PowerCenter support role, that role also can be, you can apply that as is, okay? But along with this, we will also understand about some of the administration activities in Informatica. Basically, maybe about 30% of the administration activities also are covered as part of this training. Okay, see, overall prerequisite for learning this training is you must have these to understand the complete the Informatica PowerCenter. First thing is the knowledge of RDBMS. You must know any one of the RDBMS, so whether it could be Oracle or SQL Server. Not necessarily that you must know all of them, but any one of them, or if you know more than one also, it is the welcome. Okay, so DB2, etc. And also the SQL, basically the structured query language. This is also very important to understand the Informatica concepts. In SQL, preferably you need to know about the basic query writing. Or I could say you need to know about the DDL commands and the DML commands, or DCL commands, data control language commands, and you need to know about the functions, basically the single row functions what we have. And along with that, you need to know the group functions, and group functions are like your average, minimum, maximum, and all, and joins, and you call it as a subqueries, right? Join subqueries. And along with that, if you also know about the indexes, views, right? Views, let's say even little bit more about metadata tables, or the data dictionaries, what we call. And even if you understand about little bit of a programming on the PLSQL, that is enough, but that is not mandatory to know. Okay, so these are all the, this is completely a prerequisite, so without which it may be a little difficult. I would not say the completely difficult, but a little difficult to understand. Basic knowledge of SQL is mandatory for this course to understand what is Informatica PowerCenter. And you must also know about the databases, like your foreign key, primary key, and how to establish the relationship between one table to the other table, and all this, definitely if you're understanding the joins, so that would be easier to understand this. So this is a prerequisite. And the class duration, this covers a basic Informatica PowerCenter training plus some of the advanced concepts. So the duration of this training will actually go for a 25 to 28 classes, or I would say, depending upon your intensity of the doubts each and every individual is really asking. And last classes, generally we keep it for more like a doubt orientation session, and the people come up with a lot of other expectations. So basically, we spend that. I mean, in case most of you are satisfied, with the topics and everything, we probably could even close it early as well. It depends upon the kind of questions what you generally come up, and if you want to really learn the new things or any other thing, part of the syllabus, you can always welcome and doing it. So maximum, we will be completing it in about 30 classes, 25. I would say last 5 classes, I'll just keep it as a buffer to answer your questions related to the interviews or whatever. Okay, so that's basically on the prerequisite side, and the duration is that. And basically, in terms of installations and all, yes, we will be helping you. We will help you with the server access, Informatica Unix server access through the VPN setup, and just like a real time. I mean, in the real time, how you generally work. Somewhere the server will be installed, and so we'll provide you the Informatica Unix server access through the VPN for you to practice through VPN. I mean, this you can access from anywhere. I mean, our server is available in our network, and you can access it. And they will also set up the VM, I mean, if it is really required for you. That is in terms of installation. And to practice all of that, we will provide you the lab guide. I mean, Informatica student guide we call. For a hands-on completely, we will provide you the lab guide. Okay, so that helps you to basically the practice each and every the scenario, as well as some of the things which are not discussed in the class, as well as a part of a lab guide. You're always encouraged to complete the complete lab guide, so that way you'll be confident on the tool. So lab guide will be provided to you, and the necessary softwares are all will be installed. The skills that we are going to learn as part of this training, basically, we will understand about the data warehousing concepts. I mean, before we talk about the Informatica, how it is used, and we need to understand about the data warehousing concepts, and then the data modeling. We call it as a data modeling, and then Informatica PowerCenter, and a little bit of Unix. I will not say the completely, we'll talk about the complete Unix part, but how Unix scripts can be invoked from Informatica, little bit of Unix that we will discuss. And then we'll talk about the scheduling of the ETL jobs. I mean, how the Informatica jobs will be scheduled. And then we'll also talk about some of the admin activities, like the migration of the code from one environment to other environment, and also the performance tuning, basically how we tune the all these concepts at the high level we're going to discuss. Okay, so this is on about Informatica PowerCenter developer training. So I hope everyone would have received this syllabus copy, what we are going to learn as part of this training. So whatever is part of this syllabus, only those things will be covered as part of this, because this is planned as an Informatica PowerCenter developer training. I mean, those whatever is kept in this syllabus, like I mean, you can cross check always what you wanted to learn and whether it is part of this or not. So these things will be covered as part of a training. Okay, so I'll just give you the introduction about the Informatica PowerCenter. Okay, before I talk about it, I would like to introduce myself. I am Karthik, and I have you could say more than 10 years of experience, predominantly working as an ETL developer. And I worked with the different ETL tools. Basically, I worked with Informatica PowerCenter, I worked with SAP bots, and the other reporting tools like OBIE, Tableau, Cognos. So these are all my technical forte. And I worked with predominantly with Oracle database, and I understand the SQL Server and little bit of Teradata as well. And yeah, I'm very, very well versed with your Unix shell scripting and all that stuff. So that's my strength, you could say. Basically, I've done these Informatica PowerCenter trainings from more than 3 years now, or you could say more than 4 years. I've been working as an Informatica PowerCenter trainer, so with their classes, right? So that's about myself. And what I will do is, by keeping everyone, by to keep everyone have the complete details about this training, what I do is I'll just take up some about 20 to 25 minutes of session, which covers what is where this Informatica PowerCenter is used, or what is an ETL process, right? So we're going to understand about it. Okay, now in this 25 minutes, I'm going to talk about what is data integration slash ETL. I mean, what do you mean by that? And I'll also talk about what are the different ETL tools that we have and how Informatica PowerCenter is different. And we'll also talk about the BI tools, business intelligence tools, or the reporting tools. So we'll also talk about it. And basically to understand about the concept of ETL and everything, and I'll also talk about what is OLTP versus what is OLAP. So that also I'll just quickly give an introduction about what is OLTP and OLAP. So some of you may be familiar with this terminology, but I'll just keep it very simple to understand what is ETL and all, and then we'll understand about where your Informatica PowerCenter is actually fits, and which version of Informatica that we're going to learn about, which version is there in the market, and what are the different Informatica PowerCenter, I mean other Informatica products which are there. So these 5 things I'm going to talk about, and then we'll just hear from you on your questions and the expectations of this training, and what you're really looking after. Okay, right. So to get started, basically the application, I mean on a day-to-day basis we use different applications, ATM for withdrawing the money, or if you want to buy something you just log into the e-commerce website, Amazon or eBay, or I mean if it is in India, Flipkart or anything. So basically we just log into those websites and then book whatever we want, whether it is a grocery or a clothes or whatever. So basically what I mean by that is let's say on a day-to-day basis we use a lot of transactional systems, and in a technical terms we call them as online transaction processing system. Okay, online OLTP stands for online transaction processing system, what we have. Okay, so when you look at the online transaction processing system, so on it, as I said, on a day-to-day basis we use a lot of them. Basically why we call these applications or an online transaction system, because every day there will be a frequent transactions which will be happening. So transaction, meaning of the transaction, so let me give in a application wise. Okay, what do you mean by a transaction is, see, transaction means it's basically about withdrawing the money from ATM. That's said to be a transaction. Withdrawing, okay, there may be spelling mistakes here, you need to forgive me. Okay, withdrawing money from ATM, so that is a transaction. You go and book a product, you go and order a product on a e-commerce website, order a product on an e-commerce website, that is a transaction on e-com website. Okay, or you go and pay your postpaid bill for your telephone or a mobile phone, whatever, that is said to be a transaction. Or a lot of other stuff like basically the invoice management application. Suppose let's say you want to collect the payment from your client, and you need to raise the invoice. So invoice management application, that is raising the invoice, or raising the invoice, that I will call it as a the transaction. So it's basically the transaction means you are in a technical terms, transaction is nothing but a DML statement, a group of DML statements that you're performing, that is said to be a transaction. Okay, so a wide variety of transactional applications are there in our day-to-day life. So if I list down some of them, any e-commerce application that we talk about, let's say Amazon.com, or let's say eBay.com, all these are all your transactional application. Or maybe if you talk about some of the technical things, let's say in terms of a banking applications, what we use on a day-to-day basis. So your internet banking system, or a mobile app which you download for a Bank of America mobile app, and that you're actually using to transfer the funds and everything. So that's said to be a transactional application. Or basically your credit card application, which is used for managing your credit cards in a bank and your credit card payments, wherever it is getting recorded and all those things. That is said to be a transactional application. So anything, related to the bank, or whenever you go to the bank and deposit your check, and all your checks and everything is being captured. So that is said to be a transactional application. Or in simple, if you talk about the other applications, maybe for a enterprise, for tracking all the contacts about their customers, customer details, and the opportunities which they have, and then the order management system. All these you can call it as a transactional systems, right? So all these you could say a transactional system which we use on a day-to-day basis, or on any enterprise, they could use. Or basically for your HRMS tools. I mean, when I say HRMS tools, for managing your employees, right? Employee management systems, employee management, or leave-based application, leave management, or a payroll processing, right? Payroll processing, if you would like to uh, do it using the payroll processing and all that. So definitely you can use these HRMS applications. These are also, you could say, these are in an enterprise, these are all the transactional systems. So basically, these are used for a day-to-day operations. I mean, it is not used for analyzing the data, to provide your services to the end customers. I mean, in an enterprise, we'll use all these applications basically, okay, for internal purpose and all. So these are all, this is a meaning of transactional system, okay, where there are a frequent transactions happening on the application. That is called as your transactional system. So when you talk about OLAP is nothing but the online analytical processing system. I mean, the applications which are used to analyze the data, and for a decision making. By analyzing the data, if you're taking a decisions to improve your business, so that analyzing the data and which are used for a decision making, those are your OLAP applications. Or you could call it as a data warehouse, or a decision making system, anything you can call. Okay, this is about your OLTP and OLAP. So let's take a simple example and understand about what is ETL here, and what is the need of ETL. Okay, see, think of an enterprise. Maybe you can talk about Amazon.com itself. See, Amazon.com, to maintain all their services and operations, they may be using more than 10 to 15 transactional systems for managing. Okay, let's say to manage all their employees, assume that Amazon is using your PeopleSoft application for managing all that. Okay, so this PeopleSoft application, what it does, for managing the employees, and if you want to run a payroll, we'll use a PeopleSoft application. Or if you want to use their appraisal process and everything, so they use a PeopleSoft application. And likewise, leave management application, anybody has to apply a leave, that also they apply through the PeopleSoft. So every employee who actually part of an Amazon.com or Amazon company, if they go and apply the leave, that gets recorded over here. Anybody, I mean, every month they generate a payroll, and their pay slips can be accessed from this application, and their appraisal comments, their review process, and their promotions, and everything is captured here. So for managing complete internal HRMS, they are actually using a PeopleSoft application for managing it. So every employee information, payroll related, incentive related, appraisal, leave, everything is captured here. This is one transactional system which Amazon is using for their internal purpose. It's not for an external. I mean, if you're an Amazon customer, you don't have access to this application, but it is used for an internal purpose. Similarly, let's say your Amazon.com, for order management. So let's say I have Amazon.com application where for managing their orders, I mean, I use a shortcuts here. So let's say order management. For managing all their invoices, I mean, let's say they're using a different application. Okay, SCM, supply chain management, to manage the order versus supply and everything. So basically SCM and all that. So they assume that they're using a separate application which could be your SAP or Oracle EBS, assume, backend, they're using an Oracle ERP to manage their orders and SEM and everything. Okay, so this is basically Amazon.com, and this is also one of the transactional system what we have, right? So this is basically again a separate transactional system which they have. So similarly, for managing their payments and invoices and everything, let's say uh, their payments to the vendors and basically to the invoice management with the vendors and everything, let's say they have another application which is also a transactional system. So all these transactional systems can be used for a day-to-day operations. I mean, these are not used for a analysis purpose. Any payment uh, paid by the customer or paid to the vendor gets recorded over here. That is also one transactional system, right? And similarly, likewise, they have a wide variety of application. Assume that they're using a different transactional system. So all these are all the different a transactional system what we have. So that is your OLTP systems. These are all the different OLTP systems, and these are used for a day-to-day operations to provide their services. Okay, now basically in order to understand how Amazon is doing, or let's say I want to understand what is the attrition rate in Amazon. I mean, or a HR manager wants to understand what is a attrition rate, what is the growth of the employees within the organization, or HR manager wants to understand what is the total payroll cost that is actually costing to the company, and or let's say it's in order to understand who are the poor performers and which of the employees are taking more leaves or the highest leaves, what type of leaves they have taken. So to do all these kind of an analysis, let's say this transactional system is not sufficient because the transactional systems doesn't store the historical data. I mean, you need to understand characteristics about the transactional system. It always stores the most recent data and no history. So because these application doesn't capture the history, I mean, these are not used for your analysis purpose. So that's why what we do is we are actually building a separate application which is called as an OLAP or a data warehouse, which is used for analyzing the data, which is used for analyzing the data what we have. Right. So basically, this analytical application we use for a decision-making purpose. Okay. So it is nothing but, OLAP or a data warehousing application is nothing but it's a database where we are storing the data for analyzing purpose. Okay. Now, in order to integrate the data from all these transactional systems into your OLAP, here we make use of the process called as a ETL. So what does an ETL means is that extracting the data from your transactional systems, transform it into your own desired format, and then load it into your data warehouse, right? So when you're building a OLAP or a data warehouse, you could choose any database as your data warehouse. I mean, I can choose Oracle as my data warehouse, or I can choose DB2 as my data warehouse, or I can choose maybe Teradata as my data warehouse, or I can choose the Netezza or Greenplum. Anything could be, I mean, any RDBMS could be my data warehouse. So when you talk about an ETL here, ETL, what it does is it extracts the data from your transactional system and transform the data according to our own desired format, and then load it into the end application, that is your OLAP application what we have. So this is the process of integrating a data from this transactional system to the OLAP, which is said to be a ETL, or this process you can also call it as a data integration. Okay, so data integration. So the ETL means basically the extraction of data. Extraction means reading the data from your transactional system, and transforming the data means transformation, means modifying the data. Let's say you modify the data into your own desired format, and then load, basically modify the data and then inserting and updating the data into your target table. So that is your ETL process. So ETL is just, you could call it as a middleware tool, which actually help you to integrate the data from all your transactional system into the OLAP. So that's called as a ETL. So there are a wide variety of ETL tools which are there in the the market. Like you have something called as an Informatica PowerCenter, and you have a data stage. You have ab initio. This is one ETL tool. BODS, Business Objects Data Services, and ODI, Oracle Data Integrator. And likewise, there are a wide variety of ETL tools. I mean, there are open source tools like Talent, Pentaho, lot more. There are more than, you could say, more than 50 ETL tools are available, and among that, the popular ETL tools are, you have SSIS, SQL Server Integration Service, and all these are all the different ETL tools. So you could use any tool to integrate the data from your transactional system to the data warehouse. Like let's say Oracle is chosen as a data warehouse. Finally, I have loaded the data into different tables here. In general, we store the data, I mean, we categorize the data in the form of dimensions and fact tables. Let's say, finally, I have a data in my OLAP application. So it's basically dim underscore customer, or let's say, dim underscore customer, or let's say dim underscore vendor, fact underscore sales, or let's say order item fact. Likewise, data will be categorized into different dimension tables and the fact tables. Finally, your ETL tables have integrated the data, and the data is being categorized into dimensions and fact tables. Now, we have built the data warehouse to analyze the data. So how are you going to analyze the data? The data will be analyzed with the help of a BI tools, that is your business intelligence tools. So what does this BI tool does? The BI tool read the data from your data warehouse and represents the data in the form of in the readable format or an understandable format. So suppose, let's say, if I want to understand about the sales with respect to the product, if I represent in the form of a bar graph, it will be easy to understand. Or if I want to understand the share of revenue for each category of products, let's say electronics, what is a share, or let's say the groceries, what is a share, and all. So that, if that can be represented in a pie chart, it is easy to understand. So likewise, your BI tools, what it does is it reads the data from your OLAP application or OLAP application or a data warehouse and represent the data in the form of a reports. The report could be in the bar graph or a pie chart, in the tabular format, or a line graph, anything. Your BI tools are good enough, to represent the data in the different formats, so which is easier for a business user to understand. Suppose if I want to know what is a growth of sales, sales growth from the last quarter to this quarter, if I represent in a bar graph, it will be easy to understand, right? Last year, let's say $10 million, and this year $100 million, something like that. So basically, BI tools will help the user to will show the data to the user in a different formats, to the end user. So that is your OLAP tools. So the BI tools, again, it's all facilitates the user to understand the data or analyze the data. So you have, again, different BI tools, OBIE, OBIE, and you have a Cognos, right? So you also have the Tableau, and likewise, you have wide variety of tools, again, SSRS, right? MicroStrategy, right? Likewise, there are different BI tools. All these BI tools will basically get the data from your OLAP tools and represent the data. So basically, in any data warehousing project, if you look at, the ETL developers or a backend guys will basically integrate the data from your transactional system to the warehouse, and the BI developers will help the business user to develop the reports to represent the data in the form of this. So this is called as a BI. The BI stands for a business intelligence. Okay, so sorry. So BI tools and the ETL tools will be there. So ETL developers are separate and the BI developers are separate. So the integration of data from the transactional system is going to be a continuous process, because every day there will be a new data which gets added to your transactional system, and that new data, whatever is added, will be integrated into OLAPs. So that's how over the time period there will be a historical data captured in your data warehouse, even though you have a most recent data which is available here. So what I'm trying to say here is, even though your OLTP captures only the recent data, since we integrate the data on a continuous basis, maybe twice in a day or daily, weekly, whatever the ETL programs that we're going to develop, those programs will be scheduled and the data will be integrated continuously into your data warehousing application. And that way, the historical data gets accumulated over a time period. So this is about your ETL and this. See, the ETL tools are used basically for integrating a data into a data warehouse. That is one. And ETL tools can also be used for a data migration activities. Okay, let me give you an example. So what do you mean by data migration? My Informatica PowerCenter can be used in any data migration project also. So what is data migration project? So assume that if you guys are good in terms of if you heard about the CRM applications like Siebel and MSCRM and let's say Salesforce, these are all the CRM applications to manage your customers and the leads, contacts, and everything. We use a CRM application. So assume that Amazon is actually using to manage all their customers and campaigns and everything. Let's say they're using Siebel, and now they wanted to decommission the Siebel application and they wanted to move on to the cloud-based application that is your Salesforce. Here, my all legacy data is actually available in the Siebel. Now, if I'm moving on to Salesforce, what will happen to my existing customers, existing data, what I have in this legacy Siebel application? So here, I can use an ETL tool to move the data from my Siebel application to the Salesforce so that all my old legacy data is being continued in my new application that is a Salesforce. So here basically I'm migrating all my legacy data to the new application. Here also I can use a ETL tool. So what I'm trying to say is ETL tools, 80% of the ETL tools are used in data warehousing project and 20% are used for a data migration activities or a data integration activities from one application to the other application. So all these ETL tools are compatible enough in interacting with a wide variety of applications. These tools can read from the most of the applications which are available now and can load the data into the most of applications what are available. So Informatica itself, if you see, it has around 3,000 connectors to interact with the different applications. So it has access to all the applications. I mean, not only Informatica, even DataStage and other tools as well are also compatible enough to load the data into this. So what I'm trying to say here is when you learn an Informatica PowerCenter on any ETL tool, 80% you will be a part of developing a data warehousing application or enhancing a data warehousing application, and 20% you may be working in any data integration or a data migration project as well. So overall, Informatica is an ETL tool, and this is how these are the different ETL tools. So in this course, we will focus only on the Informatica PowerCenter, how Informatica PowerCenter can be used in integrating a data into a data warehouse application or your OLAP application. That's what we're going to understand. So we'll not be touching about even the BI tools as well. It is completely how Informatica PowerCenter is used in integrating a data and what are the different Informatica products. That's what we're going to learn as part of this training, right? So that's pretty much what I would like to demonstrate about Informatica PowerCenter, right? So Informatica PowerCenter versions and all, I'll probably cover after your questions. I would like to hear from you now what questions you have on this. I mean, what would be your expectation on the training as well, right? You can go ahead one by one. You can mute yourself and then we can talk and we can discuss. What would you like to understand, or what is your expectation on this training, right? You can be open, what do you need, and you can also share your feedback as well. I mean, what else you wanted to understand. All right.
Hi,
Yes, go ahead, please. Yes.
It was a wonderful demo. Thank you so much.
If you're speaking.
There are
Yeah,
some
now.
companies
Uh-huh.
who are having Informatica and they're running ETL in their system. So
Uh-huh.
they are not developing ETL mappings every day. It's just
Uh-huh.
running every day. So
Uh-huh.
with the knowledge that you are going to give us, I mean,
Uh-huh.
when we fit in those countries, in those companies.
Yeah, that's what. So before starting it, right? So most of the data warehousing applications for Fortune 500 clients or other clients, it is already being developed. Most of the time, it will be an enhancement, and you need to monitor. It is more like a support as well, right? That production support job also, you'll be able to do it, and you will get an experience to troubleshoot and then do an impact analysis. All that will be, I mean, whatever we are learning will be good enough to work even in those projects as well. A monitoring of the jobs, and at the same time troubleshooting those jobs if there is a failure, and how to do a backtracking to understand from which tool is actually, I mean, which field is from which field we are extracting the data and all that stuff. Yes, it will be enough. I mean, enough to work in those projects.
Okay, thank you. I have one more question. If
Yeah, please go
others,
ahead. No,
yeah.
no problem.
Most of the companies also use AutoSys for
Uh-huh.
running their jobs. So,
Uh-huh.
are you going to touch AutoSys?
We will be touching a scheduling, autosys as such. I'll not be demonstrating it how the tool happens within the autosys, and how autosys invokes the Informatica workflow, which is an outside of an autosys world, right? And we'll talk about the pmcmd command which is there, and then how that pmcmd command can be a part of a batch script or a shell script to invoke the workflow, all that. And autosys again uses the different language called as a GIL language. So all that will not be doing it, but we will understand about how from any third party scheduling tool, if you have to invoke a workflow, what command you're going to use and how that will be triggered by using a batch script. That's what we're going to understand. Will not be covering in detail,
Okay,
but the fundamental thing will be covered.
thank you. My last question:
Yes.
uh, if we are going to connect to your server,
Hmm.
uh, and most probably you will be using Oracle there, yeah, for
Yes.
installing. So can we able to transfer data to my computer? I mean, if I have a DB2 or SQL Server in my computer, so can I able to transfer data from your Oracle to this, or there is some kind of restriction or license is required?
No, you can do that, but only the case is that your SQL server should be accessible from our network. I mean, see, what I'm trying to say here is, okay, let me just put it in this way. Okay, this is tech classes network. Okay, and in this I have my Informatica server. Let's say this is your IPC server, and you're connecting to this. Basically, the transformation logic and everything happens within the Informatica PowerCenter server. Now, I have my SQL Server database, which is available in your network. Okay, right? This is your SQL Server. There is no restriction as such. I mean, our outbound port, I'm not sure whether it is restricted, but this Informatica PowerCenter server should access your SQL Server. Okay, in order to read the data or to write the data. Now, in order to make this SQL server to be available, you need to configure this SQL server settings in this Informatica PowerCenter server. There will be something called as, it's maybe more technical here, but there is something called as a odbc.ini file. Here, if I record all these SQL server details in my odbc.ini file, yes, my Informatica server can interact with this. But otherwise, I think in our network itself, we have a SQL Server as well. Okay, you can check with admin team if they can facilitate that odbc.ini file to load the data into that SQL Server. So that way it will be easier, because we also have a separate machine. I'm not sure if they have shut down that, where we have a SQL Server and the BOD is installed. So basically they can you can use that and interact with it. But this establishing this may be a little difficult task, but if you ask the admin guys if they can help you with it, that would be easier. Right.
Okay, thank you, Karthik. I don't have any more questions.
All right, so I would like to hear to others. Any questions from anyone?
Hello, Karthik.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, Karthik, this is Nizam here. And when you talk about the performance tuning, what about the topics you can cover? On it is whether it is on the theoretical basis or only something like practical scenarios as well as you will cover.
So basically, it is more about a 1.5 hour session. That's what we're going to understand. First, we'll understand about identifying the bottlenecks is a theory process which we'll understand. And partitioning within the Informatica, I'm going to show you practically. We have a licensed repository. I'm going to show you one example how you can apply a pass-through partition where you can enable a hash partition, a range partition, and all that. So it is 1.5 hour session, but I'll not be able to completely demonstrate with partition. It is the completing a session in 1 minute. Without partition, it is completing in a 20 minutes, something like that, because the data set what we have is very less. But I'll be showing you how to enable the pass-through partition, where you have to apply the filters, how to enable the hash partition, and how to enable the range partition, and where you need to apply all that in a practical way. I'm going to show you in Informatica.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Right. Right. So we have some more time, so I would like to hear from you because if you have any other questions related to any other thing, whether it is related to training, installations, anything, you can go ahead.
Hi, Karthik.
Yes, please go ahead, Nagendra.
Yeah, actually, I'm already working in a company, okay, from past 2.5 years in a different domain. So now I want to switch a domain to Informatica. So with the topics you cover, can I go as a around 3-year experienced in Informatica itself?
Yes. So whatever the hands-on labs that are there as part of your lab guide, if you are practicing everything, whatever the scenario is listed there, and along with that, if you are able to gain any one of the project experience, when I say project experience, whatever the current project that you're keeping, you should understand the requirements. You should understand what are the reports that are generated from that project. You should understand the solution design and architecture of that project. You should understand the data model of that project. And you should be able to even understand what are the different kind of complex mappings or challenging tasks that are being done as part of that project, and what kind of testing is done in that project, and how the migration is taken care. Anyhow, this we are going to cover. But these project details, whatever you are keeping in that, if you're able to spend some time in collecting all those documents and gaining the experience, yes, this training is good enough to clear the interviews even for a 3+ years. Provided you're gaining the experience apart from the training, you should spend time in collecting all those documents and jotting it down and clearly understanding what it is. All that if you're able to do, yes, definitely you can easily switch the job to do it, provided that okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that project will be provided by you people, or we have to collect it from outside?
You see, it is not, if I'm actually giving you a project, and we have done more than 50 batches so far, and for everyone, if I'm actually giving you the same project, it doesn't make any sense. Okay. What I suggest you is, if you're actually talking to someone, collect the details from them. And then if you need any assistance, maybe in terms of an half-an-hour assistance or 1 hour, basically we can discuss the same project by the end of the training. So it will be useful for everyone. So we can spend the time in explaining you that project, what it is, to help you to clear the interviews. But I would suggest you to get your own project and help us with those documentation, and I can walk you through. the complete project by going through the documentation, and then help you how you can actually answer the questions about that project in the interview. That is the good thing to do. But if I'm giving you a project, I have 2 projects, I can give you that. But again, at the end of the day, you know, the same project is actually being present in 10 different, you know, that's again with respect to the client, what company experience you are keep. Yeah, that's not a, I mean,
Yeah.
valid.
So if I get you the documentation of the project, you can assist us, right?
Yes, that's what I said. Like 25 classes will be able to complete, and the last 5 classes, if you'll be able to get us a documentation, we'll go through the each and every step, how the project has actually would have been developed, and how many mappings they would have developed, and all those things. So that can be done. So one thing is solution design documentation, requirement documents to understand what reports they have developed, and the data model. These 3 are enough to understand the complete project.
Okay, fine. And one more question,
Hmm.
like which is the most popular ETL tool in the market as of now?
Till today, Informatica is a leader. Till today, after Informatica, you could say the data stage has the share, and Ab Initio has, let's say, 5% of the market. But Ab Initio is more powerful in processing the high volume of data compared to that. But in terms of a developer-friendly or a user-friendly application or a tool, is Informatica PowerCenter.
Okay. Thank you, Karthik. That's all from my side.
Okay. All right. Right. Any other questions from anyone? We have 3 minutes to go as per schedule.
Karthik, one more question.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, if I come to that office, right, Kasturi office,
Mm-hmm.
Can I meet you there?
Yeah,
Coming
I'll
to
be
office?
here. Yes.
Okay.
I'm talking from the same office now, so you can come down till 8
Yeah,
o'clock
actually,
anytime.
Dheeraj told me to come there. Like I wanted to meet you, so Dheeraj told me to come there by 8 o'clock. So I could not come today. I woke up late.
Yeah, no
So
problem.
probably I'll
We
meet
can
you
work.
tomorrow. Yeah.
All right, no problem.
Yeah. Thank you, Karthik.
Hi, Karthik. This is Praveen here.
Hi, go ahead, please.
Yeah, are you teaching other classes other than this one, or just only this class? Do you have other time available?
No, I mean, I'm taking only one class at the moment because I'm already tied up with other activities. So only one session I'm taking in a month. That's it. And no other timings I'm taking the class at the moment.
Thank you.
Right. Any other questions from anyone? All right. So if you guys are good for now, we'll stop it. And please leave your feedback to the Dhirendra. Talk to him. And if you have any concerns, probably we can have a telephonic call as well to understand your concerns. If you would like to discuss one-to-one. And if you're good for now, so yes, we will looking forward to meet you guys in the regular classes. Thank you very much, and thanks for your time in attending this demo. Thank you. I'm closing the meeting for now.